friends. Lori Ashcraft here. I'm your host for Viva La Evolution, which is sponsored by Recovery and Resilience Solutions, which is a training and consulting branch of Crestwood Behavioral Health. And today we have a remarkable guest, Steve Miccio. I have followed Steve's work for years and have always been incredibly impressed and delighted in what he's doing. And I know you will too. He's going to start by telling us his recovery story, which actually kicks off his whole career. So he went from recovering to moving right into service delivery, and just doing an amazing job. Now, before we get into that, I'm going to tell you what the learning objectives are for today. And the reason I do this learning objective part is because we apply for continuing education credit for the podcasts. And it's a requirement of accreditation. And it also is a great way to kind of give you an idea of what to look for as we move through the interview. So here we go. Here are the objectives. First of all, you're going to learn about the 4 pillars that underpin the service model that Steve has. And by the way, their company is called People USA. So if you want to just Google that at some point and find out a whole bunch more than what I'm going to tell you, that's what you look for, People USA. So the 4 pillars of People USA are, they're all peer-led. They are built on respect and dignity for people. They have a welcoming environment and mutuality through lived experience, and a real recovery-oriented philosophy. The next objective has to do with the continuum of services that they provide. So I'm just going to tell you what they are. They have stabilization centers, respite houses, mobile teams, housing, care management, which we used to call case management. And listen as he describes it, because it's a whole much better model than the old case management model. And employment support. Yeah, so that's the continuum. And then you'll hear about the difference between peer-run programs and traditional programs. There's a huge difference. And Steve does a beautiful job of distinguishing that. Next, you'll learn about leadership practices and peer support services. I would argue that what you'll hear in terms of leadership, excuse me, would be good for any program, no matter who they are. But they're especially almost required in peer-run services. So you'll hear some good stuff about leadership. And then you'll hear Steve's strategies about how to best link his services with other services and how to build what I would call support for services. It's not a competitive model. It's a collaborative model built on respect and an understanding of how much we all need each other in this process. So you're going to hear about the way he created partners with law enforcement, hospitals, Medicaid agencies, and here's a big one that we all deal with, something called NIMBY, which stands for Not in My Backyard. And this is where we often get kicked out of or not allowed into places where we want to deliver services, because the neighborhoods don't understand us. They don't understand our people, and they're afraid. So how do we get them on board? How do we bring them along with us? So we're supporting each other and learning from each other. So those are the learning objectives. And let's see, is there anything else I want to tell you? I think that's it. Steve will tell you everything else. Okay, so let's just dive into this and see what Steve has to say. And thanks again for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't. It would help us out a lot. We don't have any fancy doodads around subscribing, but We had a little red button over to one side. I think you can see that. That's all we got. So if you could, it would help us out. Okay, thanks very much. And here's Steve. Steve, I am so delighted that you took the time to talk with us today.
I'm
Your
really happy to be here.
experience, oh, good. Your experience is so rich and deep in the right places, I might add. I just know our viewers are going to learn so much from you. So thank you so much for taking time.
Well, thanks for having me, and thank you because you were one of my mentors and teachers, and
Oh,
Gene, and I
yeah.
learned so much from you and the old crew, right?
Yeah,
Just so many great people that we've
yeah,
worked with.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
this is nice.
Yeah. Um, let's think about where to start. I'm thinking it would be good if you could tell a little bit about your recovery story, because that
Sure.
leads right into the work you're doing now. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
My recovery story is what drove me because I was going to be a landscaper and a garden center operator, and
yeah,
here I am. So yeah, my story starts, in back in the 90s. Actually, it starts before the 90s when I was younger. I was never diagnosed with anything, but I had a very active mind and would go through these cycles kind of getting very depressed and sad and sometimes suicidal to these very energetic periods, of my life. And I remember I knew there was something different about me when I was in college because in college I couldn't just focus on one specific course. I had to do, when I was doing homework, three courses at a time, three different classes at a time to just be able to focus to do them. So it was just always that jumping around and everything. I think folks thought I had ADHD or whatever, but yeah, I think I was just building up into this diagnosis of, eventually being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, whatever that is. But that's what it ended up being called. And what happened was I ended up in a hospital because I was in such a manic state, um, a strange fugue state where I didn't know where I was. I was not sleeping. I was just really struggling with everything. I couldn't speak right. I couldn't think right. I was very grandiose. Thought I had all the answers, almost like that term anosognosia. It wasn't, it's a term of just not knowing there was something wrong. But I knew there was something wrong inside. I just knew something wasn't right because I couldn't function, and I ended up in a psychiatric hospital and that's where really I think my journey began. But it's where I also lost hope in my life,
wow.
and so that experience of being in the hospital, being sitting first of all in that emergency room for hours and hours and hours, nobody talking to me, nobody paying attention, nobody telling me what's happening,
Mhm.
to then being seen by a psychiatrist for 10 minutes and you're bipolar and you're going upstairs with the diagnosis. And then walked up to the unit, double locked unit, of course. And literally standing there waiting was a nurse with a little cup of medication. And that was the beginning of my multi-medication experience of, I don't even know what they gave me to this day, but I'm pretty sure it was an antidepressant, probably a mood stabilizer, and some kind of benzo or something to calm me down. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went through that experience in the hospital, and I always tell people I went in as Steve Miccio and I came out a mental patient because I just was destroyed. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Recovery wasn't mentioned in the hospital. Hope was not mentioned. Uh, it just wasn't. It was a great experience because it was such a horrible experience for
Well,
me.
well,
And so I wanted to do something.
I think what happens at that point is we're very vulnerable because we've kind of lost ourselves somewhere along the way.
Yes.
And then someone comes along with an identity, someone who's supposed to know who we are.
Right.
The identity is devastating. The identity is you're now a mental patient.
Mhm.
And that sounds like
Yeah.
just what happened to you.
Yeah, yeah, and I hear so many stories similar to that,
Yeah.
and worse, unfortunately. But I do remember in the hospital, just looking at everyone around me, and I saw them as just, wow, these are great people. you know,
Yeah.
and I started building some relationships and still scared to death, during the whole stay at the hospital, but especially with the psychiatrist, I was afraid of how I should act, in front of the
Mhm.
psychiatrist and everything. But so then I left the hospital, I was discharged, and within 2 weeks of going back to work, they terminated me. And, I couldn't prove the stigma and discrimination behind it, but that's pretty much what it was,
Yeah. Yeah.
the reality. So now I was jobless and hopeless. And I had a family. I had two young children and, a
Mhm.
wife, and had to figure out what I was going to do next. And I was fortunate that I did get another job right away.
Mhm.
But I also had to start my own business too in landscaping just to make ends meet. So I was still dealing with hopelessness of being a mental patient
Yeah.
and trying to survive for the family and move forward. So it was a lot of pressure. But over time, I saw this advertisement for a bipolar support group. It was a
Mhm.
peer-driven bipolar support group. I had no idea what that was, and I was like, I'm going to go check this out. And I went to it and I listened for the first couple of meetings because I didn't know what to say or what to do. And I was hearing my words and my story come out of the mouths of others, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And that was my first
Yes.
feeling of hope and recovery right there. And it was so powerful. I had to read everything about peer support and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for as much information as I could, which I couldn't find much, but I found some.
Mhm.
Um,
Steve, what year was this?
that was 1994.
Okay.
So it wasn't even, long, long ago.
Mhm. Yeah.
But for me, it was all brand new.
Yeah.
And so I started to, I continued with the group. And then I read a book called You're Not Alone. It was written by
Mhm.
people with depression and bipolar and whatever. And
Mhm.
and it was, again, I was like, wow, I'm not alone. I feel something here. And I don't know what I felt yet, but I felt something.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful connection
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
not being alone is such an amazing healing
Yeah, it
station.
was it was incredible. It was so incredible that there was a part-time job at one of the psychiatric hospitals in my community, hiring an emergency room screener. And because I had a bachelor's degree, I could qualify for the job, and I applied for it, and I got it. And I
Ah,
was like, oh, this is going to be great because I'm going to treat people so good when they come in here.
yeah.
And I did. I broke every rule in the hospital. I knew where the best food was in the hospital, and I
Yeah.
would steal it for everyone. And make sure that they're getting all the comforts they needed. And what I was finding was I was literally doing peer support in the emergency room with
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
I wasn't fully disclosing when I first started, but after I got comfortable with the job, I started disclosing. And by
Mhm.
the time the psychiatrist would come in to do the final screening, the folks were not so much in crisis anymore. They were like, "Well, I think I'm feeling pretty good." So I said, "Wow, there's something to this,"
Yes. Yes.
And then I was introduced to an organization called Projects to Empower and Organize the Psychiatrically Labeled.
Huh.
And it was people. So it was
Oh,
capital
oh, okay.
People and a
I didn't
lowercase
know.
c.
Yeah, I did not remember that that's what it stood for.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was People Inc. And they wanted an executive director, and I applied for it. I went through 5 interviews, and I got the job.
Uh,
And then I met Harvey Rosenthal and
yeah.
Peter Ashenden.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And they became my mentors and educators and saying,
Oh,
telling me what I could do and
yeah.
couldn't do. Like, because I all I wanted to do was fix my hospital that I was hospitalized in.
Yeah.
And they broadened my scope to, oh wait, well, no, we need to do more than that. We need to
Yeah.
fix this.
Yeah.
And they were
You
great
couldn't have had
teachers,
two better mentors than those
right?
guys. Yeah.
And they introduced me to you, to everybody. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
incredible how many people I met across the country in different parts of the world
Mhm.
around this peer movement stuff.
Yeah.
And I dove right into it. I just kept getting stronger and stronger. And we were only an advocacy organization when I started. So our budget was about $380,000.
Mm.
We had some very small recreation programs and peer support programs and whatever that were paid for through some county dollars. and that was it. So I became an advocate and I started advocating for better services, better care. And what I realized was that people would listen to me, but nothing really changed.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, well, it's nice that I'm at the table, but nothing's changing. So what do I do? So the first thing I did was I applied for funding to hire peers, and I worked with another hospital, a different hospital, and I said, can I put my staff in your emergency room? And of
Mm,
course, the first thing they said was no.
of
You
course. Yeah.
can't put patients in the into our emergency room. But what I did is I worked with the commissioner of one of the counties, and I talked about recovery like nonstop. I was using all the basic principles of psych rehab. I was just looking at all the different ways of talking about how recovery could move forward, the peer perspectives and everything. And he calls me up one day and says, I get it now. He says, what do you get? He says,
Oh,
I get recovery. And this
huh.
was a commissioner.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, what do you want to do? I says, I want to make your system better because your county's not really good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started working with the commissioner, but at the same time, I started picketing the hospital because we were
Oh,
getting so many phone calls on how bad the care was.
yeah. Yeah.
And he was okay with that. And so, but nobody was really paying attention either.
Huh.
So the next thing I did was I found out when the board meetings were for the hospital. And
Ah.
I said, let's picket that. So we
Oh,
picketed the
okay.
board meetings,
Yeah.
and literally the board uh, made a decision to terminate the leadership of the hospital, hire new staff, and then our commissioner came to me and said, "Can you put your peers in the emergency room?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely."
Huh.
So,
Oh,
so that was our first,
what a wonderful story.
yeah, it was our first move into services, and so I was
Huh.
excited about
Huh.
that. Of course, I had to figure out how to train people, which wasn't that hard, but it was like,
Yeah.
oh, now I got to train folks.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning of it all. And at the same time, I was working with Sherry Mead on the
Mm.
idea of a respite house because she had a
Hmm.
house in New Hampshire
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they were doing some respite work there. I called them crisis diversion houses because I wanted to divert people's crises from
Yeah.
going to the emergency room to the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not far from the living room model that you all
Yeah.
created,
Yeah.
which I didn't know about at the time.
Uh,
So so I wanted a place for people to go that was like a bed and breakfast,
uh-huh.
that they were going to be, with filled with empathy, love, and trust and encouragement and hope, and help people look at their crisis differently. And that's where I got from Sherry, looking at crises differently and helping people understand that.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
shifted the model from Sherry's a little bit to where I didn't have to know the people before they came to the house. I just wanted them to come even if I didn't know you, come on in. We're going to help you get through this. And you could be in within a couple hours. You didn't have to wait any length
Mm.
of time or anything. So it was immediate for
Yeah.
people. And that was really the first, I think, evolved respite that we now see across the country. Um, of letting people come in, stay 5 to 7 days, and really working on looking at their crises differently, but also looking at educating and showing what resources are available, traditional, non-traditional. We
Mhm.
did advocacy out of the house. We did everything we needed to do to set people up to a better recovery, a better road, or a better path for themselves.
Now let's back
And
up just a little bit because you said something really important back there, and I want to make sure our viewers get it. And that's what you borrowed from Sherry was looking at the crisis differently.
yeah,
So it wasn't a disaster, it was an opportunity of some sort.
exactly.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way Sherry looked at it. It's not crisis, it's opportunity, the yin and the yang, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I said, wow, that's a good way to approach it because if you before I opened it, I people would say to me, what if somebody cuts themselves? What if somebody tries to kill themselves? What if somebody hurts someone in the house? What if?
Mm.
And I said, well, what if they come here and they heal? What if they come here and they enjoy the stay and they learn something and they figure out a different way of helping themselves?
Mhm.
That's the opportunity. So I wanted to create that. So I created a mantra that says, where hope greets you at the door and recovery is the expectation.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
so when
Yeah.
you approach things in that way, you're not thinking of that safety, traditional safety,
Mhm.
issues that traditional folks have. you
Yeah.
think of how can I help this person just live better?
Hmm.
And that, again, I learned a lot from Sherry in doing that. And then just in the experience I had in the hospital, and then understanding that when you approach people with that dignity, that respect, and that kind of open arms approach, you're going to get a very different response. And we
You,
did.
you know what you're doing right there, and I don't see a lot written about this. I've written some about it, but what I wrote wasn't that good. But I haven't seen other people writing much about it, and that is how to change the identity on the spot like that.
Yeah.
What we would call it, we would say, let's focus on what's strong and not what's wrong.
Yes.
Uh, because
Absolutely.
up to that point, all that person has had as a focus is people reinforcing what's wrong with them.
Yes.
So if you're suddenly like, oh, let's look at what's right with you, you're
That's
shifting
it.
that identity.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful, powerful
It
tool.
is. It is. That's a
Yeah.
big part of our training is
Oh,
that we look for the strength in every guest, and everyone's a guest that we serve,
yeah, yeah.
as they should be. And so we look for strengths, and no matter who walks through the door and what has happened to them, everyone has a strength, and we know the resilience in so many of the people that in our world.
Oh,
And we
really?
dive right into that, and
Mhm.
we let them know we see their strength. We don't
Mhm.
see that deficit. We don't
Yeah.
see them. And many times when we first opened the house, people would say, "Who are you and what are you doing to me?" Because nobody's ever spoken to me like that
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was so new to people.
yeah,
And to me it was like, well, doesn't that just make sense to treat people that way?
yeah.
And unfortunately, our traditional system of care does not behave
Oh,
in that way,
no, not
right?
at all. I remember a model that I used to teach peers when people would come into crisis and they would be really upset because they got drug in there by the police and
Hmm.
time they didn't know why. And so they're mad, they're, you know, a little bit explosive and hard to talk with. And it would be so simple to just say, you know how you're being right now? I just want you to know that that's really normal.
Yeah.
It's very understandable that you would be acting that way.
Yep.
It's amazing how powerful just that little thing, acknowledging
Yeah.
that they're not being crazy right in that moment.
Right.
They're reacting
Exactly.
to a crazy situation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So our whole shift, in our service delivery, and just I don't know if I said it or not, but we're all peers in the organization. All of us,
Oh, right.
185 staff. We are a peer
Wow.
run organization.
That's amazing.
And I even have nurses, I have clinicians now, I have people that are in more of the traditional professional world working
Yeah,
for me,
yeah.
but have disclosed, and I'm not saying they're just people that, went to a therapist once or twice. These are
Mhm.
people that have traumatic
Mhm.
histories
Yeah.
that decided I'm going to be a nurse because I'm going to treat people better. I'm going to be a clinician because I'm going to treat people better. So these are people that have done something with their own opportunities
Hmm.
and made them, into what they wanted to do. So it was great. So
Steve,
so
you've done
yeah.
such an amazing piece of work. Um, I just stand in awe of what you've done. I'm just so proud of you and
Oh,
what
thank
you've
you.
done. I'm going to say prayers for you every night so you don't run out of steam.
Oh, thank you so much. I think one of the things we're trying to figure out here now at People, and some researchers have come and approached me and said, there's something different about your organization, and we want to get that, we want to figure out the it factor of what it is.
Oh,
And so
good.
that's when I bring them back to our four pillars that I see as the base, of what helps us, do what we do. But it really is true. I think that what we've developed, because we live our values every day, we live our beliefs, we live around recovery and around hope and around, our expectations are just different, that
Hmm.
we've created a model of care
Hmm.
that can be spread around the world. But
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
have to commit to that. You have
You
to
do.
believe in it.
You do.
And that
Yeah.
I think is the goal of tradition, to understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the pillars. I know there's four pillars. Let's just spend maybe a sentence or two on each one to get those.
Sure. Yeah. So we started with engagement, And I always tell the story of when you walk into a clinic, it's usually fluorescent lights, kind of ripped up seats, old magazines, National Geographics from 1972 sitting in
Mhm.
the waiting room and things. And you have to go to the window to check in, and everyone can hear your business. And it's just not a really nice way of engaging someone. Give me your insurance card instead of, hey, how are you today? How do things go? That kind of an engagement. So our engagement is that friendly, is that we are so happy to see you. And it could be somebody coming back to one of our Rose houses the 30th time,
Yeah,
or coming back at our stabilization center, or being seen on the streets. Doesn't matter how many times. It's like, we're really happy to see you
yeah.
because, first of all, you have that strength that you survived another day, which is wonderful.
Yes,
And we have the opportunity to work with you again. And
yes,
that's wonderful.
yeah.
And so we don't look at recidivism as a bad thing. We look at it as a movement forward and growth,
Mhm.
right? So the engagement is so important, how you engage people
Mhm.
with that respect and dignity and welcome. The environment, of course, is super important. So all of our houses look like a bed and breakfast. All of our
Mhm.
stabilization centers look like kind of living rooms and comfortable areas. And
Mhm.
I have music, I have professional instruments um, in all of our services. I have,
Mhm.
guitars, I have some drums, I have all whatever I can pull in and bring in. And then professional art equipment, is in there
Mhm.
too. Not crayons, professional art
Right.
equipment
Yeah.
for people that want to do some nice painting or they want to do drawing or whatever they want to do, because you're a human being. You're not a diagnosis. You're not that marginalized person walking through a door anymore.
Yeah.
You are us,
Yeah.
and we are you. So we want people to know that. So that's the environment is very important. And we're always asking our guests, do you feel safe here? If you don't, what is it? What can we do to make it better for you to
Mhm.
feel safe?
That's
So
so
we always get that
fundamental, isn't
feedback.
it? That whole
It is.
safe. Yeah.
It really is.
Don't
And
feel
there
safe.
are
Can't come out.
exactly. And that's what we've gotten so much information from people that they would not share with their psychiatrist or their therapist or their programs or whatever they went to because they didn't feel safe in those
Yeah.
environments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get great information from people we serve. The mutuality is, of course, that lived experience. We call ourselves lived experts, in the field because of what we went through. And we don't do that. We don't call ourselves lived experts to show up. We use that to say, hey, we really can't help you because we listen and we respond. We don't react, and we want to help you help yourself figure out a better quality of life. And so that's that whole mutuality. It just gives us such a higher level of trust between
Well,
everyone we serve.
they know you've been there.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah,
just parroting back things. You're like, yeah, I get it. I've been there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes a difference. And then the last one is the philosophy of believing that people can do better, the
Mhm.
philosophy of not feeling that we're in danger because we're serving a challenging population of people,
Mhm.
being excited about the people we serve.
Yeah.
You can walk into our houses or stabilization center and our staff are smiling and saying, welcome. And we're
Yeah.
so glad you're here.
Yeah.
And we know you can do better. And just, promoting people instead of what I heard was you're going to take meds the rest of your life and you're going to be sick the rest of your life and be
Yeah.
bipolar the rest of your
Oh, yeah.
life. And,
That's
you know,
especially in the 90s. That was the party line.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we, again, firmly believing and sticking to that philosophy. So among those four pillars, we've established a way we do the work we do. And that has created so much success for us that, fortunate or unfortunate, the organization has blossomed we've grown 3.5 times our size in the past 4 years.
Wow.
And
Uh,
it sounds really fun and good, but it's really challenging.
I
Yeah.
know.
So, but we are getting through it and we're enjoying it. We're starting to see some daylight. So, to be able to really to grow the services that we've created, has been a gift,
Mhm.
for us to work in that environment.
Well, and for
So,
everybody else too, it's been a gift.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think it really has. We survey the people, and I hate surveys, but you're not going to know unless you ask, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we do survey our guests and ask, did it help? And we get tremendous results and responses
Uh,
that come
uh,
back very positive. So we
uh,
are making a difference.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you've got, I don't know, 6 or 7 different types of programs you do that all synergistically work together for people. Um, you want,
yeah,
I mean, the stabilization centers are one, and that's an alternative to hospitals and jails.
yep,
Let's say a little bit about that, but then let's cover all the other ones too.
yeah, sure. I never saw us as a crisis organization because I didn't think, I was more about prevention and
Yeah,
wellness,
yeah,
but we got into the crisis world because the crisis system is horrible.
yeah.
It's just horrible for people. It's the emergency room.
Mhm,
And in New York, I've worked with a lot of hospitals here in New York, and when somebody has to wait 72 hours or even more for an evaluation, so
mhm,
you're sitting laying on a gurney for that long,
mhm,
that's
mhm,
inhumane.
mhm,
And so no one deserves that. So I wanted to create something that was better. And that's where I found out about your program that you designed. I found out about other stabilization centers that were out there in the country, and I looked at all of them. And I said, I want to create something here in New York that I think is going to work for New York, for
mhm,
us here. And so it's a 24/7 walk-in, no appointment necessary, urgent care. Think of it as urgent care,
mhm,
filled with peers, people with lived experience, also with a lot of training and a lot of background to understand what crisis is.
mhm,
And then I had to build relationships with detox programs and rehab programs and mental health programs in community so
mhm.
that I could get them within 24 hours to those services. And that's what
Oh,
we
I
did.
see. Yes. So
So,
that was your outdoor. Pro
yep,
Could have been your indoor also, but
yep, yep.
yeah.
No, so that was when you're in crisis, people don't know where to go. They don't want to go to a hospital. Police don't want to bring people to jail. Come
Mhm.
to us
Yeah,
and we're going to figure it out.
yeah.
And you would
And
think 24 hours isn't a long time, but it is a long time. And we average about 6 to 8 hours per person to get them to where they are going to get the
mm,
right help.
mhm.
So
Pretty fast.
it is. But I'm pushing the envelope constantly. I'm
Yeah.
pushing the other providers constantly.
Uh,
Uh, it seems like all that I do is contact other CEOs and execs to say, "Hey, we need you. Step it up,
yeah.
and we're going to get people to you." And so it's that advocacy is always there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that continues. Then we have the respite houses, the rose houses, where people can stay from 1 to 7 days.
Before you move
Uh,
on, I just
sure.
want to make sure we cover something else about the stabilization. This is so important that because police are the folks who often pick up people.
Yeah.
And then they have to go to the hospital and they have to wait there for a long time with
Hmm.
the person often. There's usually
Oh
some,
yeah.
they hate that. It sounds like in your case, it's much easier for them to bring somebody by and drop them off. They
Yeah,
must,
that's a story in itself of how that happened.
uh,
Because I started doing while I was developing the center, I started doing CIT training. I learned about crisis intervention team training for police. So it's a
mhm,
40-hour training. You bring in community members and therapists and groups to help police understand how to engage better, how not to use the command voices, how to use more of an empathetic voice, how to not pull the taser out right away and
yeah,
whatever. I thought it was a really good training to kind
mhm,
of decrease that, level of intensity that police often have. And they loved it. They went through the course and absolutely loved it when I first started. And
mhm,
so the county executive here and the county legislation liked it so much they wanted to fund it more. And so I
mhm,
could train all of the police departments that wanted it to come in and get the training.
mhm,
And so while I was doing that, I was building the stabilization center. And the first thing all the chiefs of police, we had 17 different departments in the county alone. They're
Oh,
like, well, our police aren't going to transport people to your place because we just don't do it. It's not our policy. Everything was policy.
mhm,
And I said, well, you're missing out then because they can come, they can drop them off, and they can go.
mhm.
Um, so it took about, I say, 18 months
Huh,
before
huh,
some of the police officers, without permission, started bringing people to the stabilization center. And
huh.
they'd come in with the individual, the guest, and they'd say, so you're so and so. And my staff would say, are you CIT trained? Just so we can get an idea of how many
Yeah,
were, bringing them. And they would say yes or no, and they would be out back on the road, gone.
huh.
So the chiefs started hearing about this and they started looking at it and they started writing new policy.
Oh, good.
So now the officers, they don't even come in anymore. They come in, they pull up to the door, they let the guest out, the guest walks right in, and they're gone. So we can't even ask them if they're CIT trained. But that's the amazing thing is the level of trust has shifted
Yes,
so much, which is
yes.
wonderful,
Yeah,
that they can just drop them off and go. No
yeah.
wait.
That's amazing.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad
yeah,
I asked that, or we wouldn't have gotten that CIT story out there.
that's right. That's
Anyway.
right. Yeah. So we continue the CIT training twice a year now, and it's just,
Hmm,
we fill the class, so it's really nice.
hmm,
So then there's the respite houses, which are the 1 to 5, 1 to 7 day stays. People come, they learn crisis differently. They also stay connected because they became natural warm lines before I even knew what warm lines were,
huh.
because people would leave and they'd start getting a little, anxiety or whatever, and they'd call the house and they'd say, hey,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just want someone to talk to.
yeah, yeah.
And so that became the warm line.
Hmm.
So I think we get, I don't know, about 10,000 calls a year on that, so that's part of the house as well.
Huh.
And it keeps people from going into that full-blown kind of critical mode, right?
Oh,
That
God.
crisis of, I need a hospital. No, they have someone to talk to 24/7.
Isn't that simple? I mean, we
It's
didn't
so
have to go to
simple,
school to learn that. We
right?
have it. It's our gift. We can talk. Just
I
speak to
know.
somebody. Yeah.
Uh, we're
You
funny
get
humans.
10,000 calls a year now.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Yeah. That's in addition to us also telling people about 988. So,
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
we make sure that they always have a resource,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go to.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
so those are the houses. We stay connected to everyone we serve that wants us to. No, nothing is forced in this organization.
Hmm.
We'll say, hey, once you leave, do you want us to give you a call? Because we'd like to check in and see how you're doing. So we'll do a 24-hour call after either the stabilization center or the Rose House to
Hmm.
just say, how are you? Is there anything you
Hmm.
need?
Hmm.
And then if they want more frequency of calls like that, we'll put that on our calendar and we'll call them, to
Hmm.
make sure that they're doing okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So those are the houses. We do
How
a lot
many
of peer
houses,
support.
how many houses are there?
We have four, but around the country and different parts of the world, I've helped to open over 40 now,
Huh.
which has been
Huh.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
So it is growing, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So we're at four right now. Um, we then got in, we've always done peer support groups and services. So we continue those and we serve, if you know New York State, we serve from Yonkers all the way up to Glens Falls, which is a very large of the northeast corridor of New York.
Hmm.
We're just, Yonkers is just north of New York City. And
Hmm.
then Lake George is our furthest north in New York in the Appalachian Mountains and
Hmm.
whatever. So, um, so not Appalachian, Adirondacks. So, um, so we serve a large group and do a lot of peer support, of course. We got into housing, with supported housing,
Hmm.
which means that people get to pick their own apartments. They get to pick pretty much their own furniture and whatever it is they need to live successfully and independently. We
Hmm.
provide the support to help them be successful because some people haven't had that experience of living on their own. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we will provide those services to help them be independent as possible.
And can they stay
Um,
in those houses forever if they want to, or?
Forever. Yeah, they're permanent. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Some people can might choose to move to a Section 8, which gives them a little more finances and stuff, which is good for them. But most people will stay with us, forever, which is
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Permanent housing. That's
So, but our employment program kind of messes things up sometimes
I
because then people get into employment, they
yeah.
start making good money,
Yes. Yeah.
and then they start living actually independently, paying
Yeah.
their own rent, getting out of our services, and
Yes.
so that's a success as well. So we do a lot of employment services for the people in our housing program, and then we do a lot of services for just the general community in
Huh.
employment. So we
So I don't
serve
even
everyone.
have to be in your program to take
No.
advantage of your
Nope. Nope. The beauty about us is that nobody has to be in any of our programs to take advantage of our services.
huh.
And they
Huh.
can be free. We are a Medicaid provider now, which is in the past 2 years we just started doing that, which I didn't want to do,
Mhm.
but everything's turning into Medicaid, so I learned
Mhm.
how to do it. And we learned carefully how to do that so that we didn't lose the value of the pureness of who we are.
Mhm.
And
That's
so we
such a
figured
hard.
it out.
Well, you might be the only people that really have. I just that's such a struggle point.
It is.
Because we're used to just doing what's right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
when you get into that system, you've got to write everything down in
Yes.
ways that may or may not represent the best
Yeah.
profile of what's happening.
I
Yeah.
think what made it successful for us is that New York State, when they saw the success of our respite houses, they said, we want to license those. And I said, please don't. And they said, well, if you want them to grow and if you want them to be sustainable, we can license them. Can you help us write the license? And I said,
Oh,
oh, well, if I can
perfect.
help you,
Yes.
then we will do day rates. We won't do 15-minute increments of
Yeah.
billing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that'll help.
Yeah.
And then I helped design the whole structure of the model with the state.
Huh.
So we kept that pureness in there, and that's how we were successful with that.
What is that license called?
This is the part, let me think. They always put numbers to everything in New York State.
Community
Um,
care or something like that?
Yeah, it's under self-help, still
Okay.
under the self-help model, but it's under the 1115 waiver
Hmm.
that allows us
Well,
to
the
the
state can do
state
it.
can do a plan amendment with
Yes.
with
Yes.
Medicaid and they
Yeah.
can get it funded, and that's what they did. They did it through the
Okay.
1115 waiver.
Okay. Okay.
And then the same thing happened with the stabilization center because we were the only stabilization center in New York when we first opened.
Hmm.
And I think we're still the only completely pure run stabilization center in the world.
Hmm.
But they came to us and said, can you help us write this one because we want to license these as well?
Hmm.
And so we did. Same thing,
Mhm.
day rates, and made it easier to
Mhm.
write and manipulate and whatever. So
Mhm.
we got that Medicaid funded. So we're reaping the benefits of the Medicaid billing while still keeping the values of who we are as an organization.
Well, I think you just hit exactly the place you needed to, because if you can get a license or a policy to reflect what you want to do, then you're not always looking over your shoulder.
Right.
You're not having people worry about, what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
con- congratulations on that move. That was,
Thanks. That was a big one. That was a lot of lost sleep
yeah,
and
yeah,
trying to figure it out. Because I didn't know Medicaid when we first started, and I had to learn a lot about it.
yeah.
And I brought in consultants, and I said, "Help us do this, so
Hmm.
that my staff don't have to worry about their notes. They
Hmm.
can worry more about the people we serve." And
Yes, yeah,
so that's what we've done.
that's great.
So.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So then we got into mobile services, which are probably almost my favorite now because
Really?
um, I wanted to. I've always wanted to be a trailblazer in changing the paradigm, shifting the paradigm to recovery.
Yeah.
Not focus on people's illness, focus on people's wellness, that kind of approach. And I was watching these mobile teams start to grow in New York and across the country, and they were social workers riding with police. And I was like, well, I don't really think why are we doing that? Then we're devaluing the behavioral health system, and we're devaluing the police because now they become, kind of pseudo social workers,
Yeah.
right?
Or
So
transportation, one of the two.
yeah, and but they always have a gun on them. So
Yes.
why was that okay?
Yeah.
So I started a couple of impromptu kind of teams. We didn't call them mobile teams per se, but they were my staff that were going out and engaging people in community and saying, "Hey, how are you? How can I help you? Is there anything you need?" And building a relationship. But then they started funding services for mobile teams, and I applied for those grants knowing that they were going to have to work very closely with police. They would have to either ride along or they'd have to have police escorts to do the engagement. And my thinking was, I'll start it that way, but I'll shift it because I'll teach them.
Mhm.
And my immediate focus was on my staff to help educate officers on how to back off and feel comfortable that my team can handle this.
Mhm.
And so we had, a peer specialist and a clinician who was also a peer specialist, um, working with the police. And it took about 2 years
Mm.
before the police department, one of the police departments we were working with, finally said, "You kind of got this. We'll be down the street,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you can engage."
Yeah.
And so we still work very closely with police departments,
Mhm.
but it's not with the police knocking on the door with the social
Mhm.
worker.
Yeah.
It's our team engaging first,
Yeah.
and that was our goal. So I think we're evolving, the alternative response system a little bit too, because I'm sharing that nationally now and
Mm.
saying we can get there, we can do this,
Yeah.
but it's got to be smart. It's got to be a lot of training, and
Yeah.
it's got to be an understanding of how the teams work and the roles of the teams.
Yeah.
And so we're moving forward. So that's why it's becoming more fun, I think, is
Yes.
to
That's why
seeing the
that's why it's your
shift.
favorite right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's today. So so
Ah.
but yeah, we really created purposefully, I created a continuum of care because the traditional continuum of care, I think, still has a ways to go
Oh,
in evolving.
a long ways to go.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
meet a lot of organizations that will say, "Oh, we hire peers." And my first question is, "Well, what do they do?
Right.
And how effective are they? What's the value they bring to your organization?" And they can't answer those questions all the time.
Yeah.
So
Or they have
that's
the wrong answer. I find it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just thinking about what we've talked about so far, and it seems to me if we were to use your experience as a leadership lesson, I would say the key here has been to build credibility
Yeah.
at the very beginning. And then other entities can trust you and
Right.
not expect you to be perfect, but expect you to be able to admit when you need help or when you didn't get it quite right and work with them. Um,
Yeah.
that's such a valuable uh, place to come from, and it's so effective.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It was a lot of work because I remember proposing the first Rose House. I sat at provider tables and they said, "What do you mean you're going to take people in crisis in your house?" And I said, "Yeah." And again, that's where the what if and the danger questions all
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Once they saw the value of the house, and they became a partner with us,
Hmm.
that's when the integrity shot up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I use that integrity carefully because I still remind my staff every day we are a peer-run organization and you could blow it in one day.
Yes, you could.
And
Yeah.
right. And so we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm a CEO that will call another CEO and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I think we messed up and we're going to do better next time. But
Mhm.
I just wanted you to know we made a mistake and we're going to fix it." And
It's
they
yes.
they respond to that.
Well, there's actually studies done on this that nobody reads anymore, but um, that say humility and vulnerability are the very best leadership qualities. I think Stanford did a study on this a few years ago, and
Yeah.
probably other people have too. But so we know it. It just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
congratulations on that one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You know, something else that I know you do that I'd like you to explain, because I'm not sure I quite understand it, is you do something that used to be called case management, and then I
Mm,
think it started being called care management. This is when the big HMOs started trying to do their own. And
yeah.
I know you have your own model of that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. We broke the traditional model on purpose because what I learned about it was that they were moving into health homes and case management was becoming care coordination or care management. And I didn't understand it. And I was like, what is that going to look like? And one of the oversight agencies asked me if I wanted to hire a staff person to be a care coordinator under this new model. And I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot because I want to understand it. And if I can do it from the inside, I can understand it better.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I started learning from the other care coordination organizations what they were doing. And it became a telephonic approach to care management.
Hmm.
And they sat there, and a care manager would have 40 to 60 people on their roster and make phone calls all day and say, "Did you get to the doctor? Do you need another appointment? Do you did?" I said, "Well, where's the relationship in this?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is that? And how can one person be expected to serve 60 people? That's ridiculous."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I immediately worked with my staff and said, you're going on the road. You're going to meet the people that you're serving,
Yeah.
and you're going to go with them if they have to go to a doctor. You're going to go with them to social services. You're going to be an advocate in addition to whatever it is you're doing,
Hmm.
and I'll figure out how to pay for it. But this is how you're going to do it. No
Yeah.
telephones. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, of course, you're going to get phone calls, but you're
Yeah.
not going to sit there at a desk and do this.
Hmm.
And so I immediately embraced our model to say we're going to continue the relationship with people approach rather than the telephonic approach. And people loved it. Of course, when
Hmm.
you can build a relationship with someone and you
Oh,
know someone, you can put a face to a phone or a face
yes.
to it just changes that whole dynamic. And then
Yes.
you throw the four pillars on top of it, of our philosophy on top of it. And the rosters for my staff, I won't let them go above 24 people at a time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even that's a lot. But
Yeah, that's a
they
lot.
they tell me we can handle it. We're okay with
Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we hit 24, I hire another staff. As soon as we hit 20,
Ah.
we keep and so it grew. And then other counties were watching the success of what we were doing and said, well, can you do it in our county? And
Hmm.
so now we're doing it in 5 different counties
Ah.
and the revenue works. The
Hmm.
revenue works for us.
Hmm.
I can pay for it, and I'm not, burdening the organization.
And you're not
Uh,
sitting at the desk all day making phone calls.
no, no, they're never here.
Yeah.
So, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I didn't embrace the traditional health home model, but I did embrace the funding that you can get from the model, and it's a Medicaid model.
Hmm.
Um, and we're successful at it because of the what we created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Steve, you have done so many hard things. This might be a silly question, but what's the hardest part of your job?
Um, it used to be ensuring the fidelity of who we are. That's where I struggled because as we were growing, I wanted to make sure that no matter what staff person you would ask the question to, you would get that answer of recovery and hope and resilience and all those good words and those behaviors. Now it's become um, NIMBYism
Ah,
uh, of trying to open new services to
not in my
communities.
neighborhood. Right.
Yeah, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Um, I'm fighting with mayors. I'm fighting with, legislators, with community members that think that what we're opening is going to attract homeless criminals in
Hmm.
their neighborhoods.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I keep telling them, first of all, the people that we're going to serve already live here. And they
Yes.
think that we're going to attract people from all over the country to
Uh-huh.
come here because we're going to be so good at it. And I said, well, thank you. I mean,
Yes.
I'm glad you think we're so good, but no, we're not because the people that need to be served live right here in your community. And
Yeah.
that's who we want to serve, but that can't get over it. And so I'm constantly going to town meetings and getting beat up, um, verbally, not
Yeah.
physically yet, but verbally, and refused, and barriers just constantly going up. And I can't get the state to help me because they don't know what to do legally to, even though they want to fund us to do these things, I
Mhm.
can't get that. Um, that's probably the hardest there.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then the other hard part I think I'm facing is that I'm getting to that age of transitioning, of thinking of transition,
Mhm.
um, and finding the leadership that is going to maintain this
Mhm.
organization, not just maintain it, but help it thrive.
Yeah.
And I think some of my leadership, and that's why I do want to write more so that that will continue, so that this organization will never fall back on tradition in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form
Yeah, that
and
would be a
continue to
shame if that
thrive.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think
Well,
those
those
are
are
the
two
hard
big
things.
ones. I can see when those are big.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Uh, well, it's just been such a pleasure, Steve, catching up with you and hearing about all the wonderful things you're doing. Is there anything you want to add that we haven't talked about?
No, I just think in today's day, with the new leadership in Washington and things, there's so much fear and fear mongering and just I hate to say it, but hate. It seems like there's a lot of hate in our country right now. There's such a division in our country. How do how do you continue to go forward?
Mhm.
And I think the thing we need to do as leaders is not forget why we're here and who we're serving, and focus more on that than on the politics and the state of affairs in our world right now. Um, to maintain our own sanity, but
Mhm.
also to make sure that we're serving in a way that people deserve to be served.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
So thank
yeah.
you again, ever so
Well,
much.
thanks for having me. Love being here.
Well, folks, I know you learned a lot from this. And we hear this stuff in various places, but to hear it all at once from one person kind of packages it up in a way that we can hold it and remember it and relate to it. So I'm sure this podcast did that for you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. I just love bringing these special people to you, um, because how else are you ever going to be able to talk to them or hear them in a personal kind of way? So I'm delighted to be able to do this for you. And thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Okay. Love you lots. Bye.